Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here, with Malik, curators of the Conflict Archive. We left American Civil War last time the war had reached a terrible peak. Today we pick up where we left off. The war that began with hope and fury soon became something darker. Imagine the spring of 1862. Armies sprawled across the landscape, soldiers trapped in mud, rain, and sickness. Camps stretched for miles, tents sagging in the rain. The air was thick with sickness and fear, a prelude to the horrors yet to come.
Aurelius, that imagery does a decent job of showcasing the chaos, but it really misses a critical point. The soldiers weren't just battling the elements. They were fighting despair itself. The mud and rain were relentless, but so was the fear of what awaited them in battle. They faced the unknown, and that psychological toll weighed heavily on each of them. Understanding this human cost helps us grasp the true impact of war on these individuals.
Fair point, Malik. But consider this. The brutality of battles like Shiloh and Antietam didn't just test their endurance. It shattered their expectations. At Shiloh, dawn broke over a misty Tennessee field, and suddenly everything changed. Confederate soldiers charged unexpectedly, catching Union men half awake. The chaos was overwhelming. The sheer scale of the carnage redefined the war's grim reality. It made clear that this was no mere conflict. It was a harbinger of the violence to come.
But let's not forget the human stories behind those numbers. By nightfall, more than 23,000 men were dead, wounded, or missing. Each of those casualties had a name: John, William, or Samuel, and a family waiting for news, a life they were forced to leave behind. The brutal reality of Shiloh wasn't just about tactics or strategies. It was about the devastating loss of hope and dreams, the shattered futures of countless lives that would never be the same.
You're not wrong about the individual stories, but we can't overlook the strategic implications of battles like Antietam. September 1862 marked the bloodiest single day in American history. The sun rose over fields that would soon be soaked in red. By nightfall, we had 22,000 casualties. This staggering loss signaled a profound shift in our understanding of war and its cost. We were left grappling with not just numbers, but the weight of what that day meant for our future.
But that shift wasn't just strategic. It was deeply moral. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation came after Antietam, and it fundamentally changed what the war was about. It wasn't just about preserving the Union anymore. It became a fight for freedom. The stakes rose sharply, and suddenly the conflict was personal. Families were torn apart, lives were at risk, and the core of society was on the line. This is where the narrative really deepens, doesn't it?
True. The Emancipation Proclamation shifted the narrative in ways we can hardly ignore. But it also ignited a well of fear and anger deep in the South. Masters lashed out, desperate to hold on to their power, and suddenly the war for the soul of the nation became a fierce battle over freedom itself. The psychological dimensions of warfare were just as real, just as impactful as the bloodshed that followed. We must remember that the scars of conflict run deeper than what we see on the surface.
Fear and anger? Absolutely. But let's really dig into Vicksburg. The siege there became a heartbreaking symbol of suffering for everyone involved, both soldiers and civilians alike. Ulysses Grant's Union Army surrounded the city, and that led to some truly desperate conditions. Food ran out, and people faced starvation. Families were torn apart, and the lines between home and battlefield just disappeared. It was a struggle for survival that affected everyone, turning that city into a living nightmare.
The siege truly brought to light the relentless nature of this war. As the year drew to a close, we saw technology becoming more significant than ever. Railroads moved men and supplies with astonishing speed, while the telegraph transmitted news of victories and defeats in mere hours. These advancements meant the machinery of war operated faster than you'd ever seen, leading to greater consequences that would reshape the battlefield and our understanding of conflict itself. It's a game changer, no doubt.
Aurelius, I know you're passionate about technology, But we can't forget the human cost that comes with it. Families endured unimaginable suffering as they watched soldiers march past their homes, roads filled with the limping wounded. Those battles left scars that went far beyond the fields. The emotional toll on those left behind was profound, and many carried that pain long after the fighting stopped, shaping their lives in ways we often overlook.
You make a strong case. The emotional dimension of war is crucial. As we approach Gettysburg, Robert E. Lee's bold march north brings everything to a head. The Union, battered yet stubborn, braces for disaster. The fate of the nation now hangs on a few desperate days. But a gamble? Perhaps. But a calculated one.
That gamble could change everything for us. But we can't forget that the stakes aren't just military. They're deeply personal. Families across the nation are holding their breath, caught in that painful space between hope and despair. Each story matters. The human experience in this war, the faces and lives affected, is what will ultimately shape its legacy. It's those real connections that remind us of the cost, don't you think?
As we stand on the brink of Gettysburg, it's clear that the war has reached a terrible peak. The complexity of human experiences intertwined with military strategy will shape history. Every decision made in those desperate days will echo through time. This is what empires do. They gamble on their future, often with devastating consequences.
That's where we leave it this time. American Civil War continues. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Conflict Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.